There are dozens of manipulation tactics that narcissists use to control the people around them. And one of the many that they use is something called surveillance. They're watching you. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about this narcissistic manipulation tactic of surveillance, some stories of what I've heard in my practice from people about being watched, and what it does to you and what you can do about it. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Healing Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists, to become healed icons. What's an icon? An icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. All those things that narcissistic parent divides you from is something I help you heal holistically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. I will help you find a spiritual solution to get that narcissistic parent out of your head and out of your body. All right, so let's move on. Surveillance. Oh my gosh. Your parent is watching you, and it's the weirdest thing because they're neglecting you at the same time. They're on top of you, watching your every move to see what you do, because they're going to tell you you did it wrong, or you need to do it better, or you're not supposed to do that. I want you to do this instead. And then you do the thing instead, and then you did it wrong. I didn't ask you to do that. And then you get gaslit, and all these things happen, right? Okay, yeah, you can tell I went through it. So narcissistic abuse from a parent is very, very difficult because they're programming you with specific beliefs, thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that get settled into the body, wear away at the energy field, and then drain you of your experience to the point where your biology has a hard time running itself anymore. And then you might get sick. That's what happened to me. And I help people with unwinding all of that and their holistic health and wellness. So, surveillance, they're watching you. And the stories I've heard are crazy. Like, some narcissistic parents are actually sociopathic or psychopathic, as on top of being narcissists. And like one of my clients, their parent watched them all the time, would send the police to them, making up stories that they were, threatening to bomb places. Or, I mean, it was crazy, the stuff that this narcissistic parent did. And then they would convince people that this person was mentally ill. And even in the workplace, they were so skilled at convincing everybody that this person was mentally ill that that narcissistic parent systematically cut everybody out of this client's life. Everybody. So that they were completely isolated and alone and had to create a whole new life. And then they took them to court. I mean, there's just like so many things that go on. It's unbelievable and horrible. And a lot of therapists that they'll go to when you've been through narcissistic abuse are just like, they almost don't believe it. People won't believe the stories. And that's part of the ace in the hole for the narcissist, is that people don't believe the stories, and they don't believe that person would ever do that. They're the nicest person. They're a pillar of the community. They're upstanding, all of these things. And it's absolutely not true. So this watching you thing, it could be, there's so many different ways that they do this. They may violate you by looking at your journal. They may hack into your computer system. I've heard this happen quite a bit. Put tracking devices on your car to know where you are at all times, because they are literally watching you, waiting to see if you mess up. And a big reason they're doing that is because they're the dishonest ones. They're the ones that are manipulating, lying, cheating, stealing in the background, and they assume everyone else is doing that too. And then they have an agenda where they're trying to get you to be the way that they want you to be. And then when you're not that way for them, then it's also, they'll use a smear campaign as well. So they may be actually recording you and then finding things that you say about them, or things that you say that are wrong in their estimation, and twisting what you're saying and making it seem like you're being this horrible, awful person, because that's something they're dedicated to, is is letting you know that you're the horrible, awful person when what they're really doing is projecting it all on you. It is maddening when you think about it. So when you think about surveillance and this narcissistic parent watching you, um, while simultaneously neglecting all of your emotional needs and sometimes even your physical needs, they're, gambling and buying all kinds of stuff for themselves, and you need new clothes, and that they don't care. They really, really don't care. They'll make up something about how they can't afford it, and it's clear that they're out there spending all the money on gambling or drugs or alcohol or prostitutes or whatever. I mean, there's so many things that they're doing in the background that they don't want anyone else to know about. And so they assume that you're doing awful things too, and they're trying to trap you somehow. So surveillance is a really difficult one because it does a lot of different things to you potentially. So surveillance can make you very hypervigilant, where you're always looking around, looking to see like, oh my gosh, are there cop cars around? Is somebody following me? Is my car tapped? And then you'll be afraid to have conversations with people about anything because you might be listened to. They might be filming you and then looking at the film later and then using that against you. I mean, this is how crazy it gets with a narcissistic parent or narcissist in general. It could be your mate, it could be anyone, but it will create that hypervigilance. And so this keeps you in a constant loop of feeling helpless, feeling violated, feeling terrified. Really, it creates terror. And that terror keeps your nervous system moving like this. So you just feel, you may even say like, my nervous system feels jacked up all the time because you're constantly hypervigilant, but it makes you easier to control. When you are in any kind of weakened state, it makes you easier to control. So when you handle that piece, when you allow yourself to do some kind of therapeutic process that will help you release yourself from that energy that you're holding in your field. And you may have to get away. You may have to go no contact. You may have to move. You may have to do whatever it is that you need to do for you to be able to go through that healing process. But it's going to be a very important part of it because your hypervigilance is something that's going to keep going. You don't feel safe, and they don't want you to feel safe, because the second that you feel safe, that means that you can become independent, you become confident, you can become yourself, and all of those things will make it so that you can't be controlled. That's the way you heal. That's what you heal. When you become you, solidly you, and you don't allow that narcissistic parent to come into your field anymore, your energy field, into your consciousness, into your daily reality, into your body, because like you're holding that energy in your body. And when you get those programmed beliefs, because they program you with these beliefs, and these beliefs will run your perception and they'll run your life. And so that's what you have to do, is release the programming from the field. And there's so many different ways to do that. So let's get back to a few things that happen to you when you're raised by a narcissistic parent. And surveillance is one of the tools they use quite often, where they're watching you. They might be recording you and then playing that stuff back at you and then twisting it. And there's so many different things that they can do. So it can also make you feel very paranoid, because now you're always worried. You're paranoid and distrustful of yourself and of others, because you're paranoid that other people are going to do the same thing. And most people won't. Most people are sane and respectful, but that's a big part of what happens in a narcissistic parent relationship, is they are disrespectful towards you. They're disrespectful towards everybody in the center of the family, from sometimes more than others, some people more than others. Some people in the family system are more targeted heavily by that disrespect, and by the distrust and the shaming and the blaming and all of the different things that they're doing. It can make it really hard for you to have relationships with others when you have a narcissistic parent who's watching you all the time because they're wearing away at you emotionally. Emotional abuse is like it's an emotional warfare where they're using specific emotions to weaken you so that you are easier to control. They want you to give up. They want you to give up because when you give up, you're again easier to control. So having a narcissistic parent watch you all the time with these surveillance techniques that they use, it can really keep you in that freeze mode where you don't know which way to turn, you don't know which way to move. You feel like you're in a prison. A lot of my clients will say, they feel like they're in prison, they're behind bars, or they feel like they grew up in a jail. So I understand this is really hard to feel like you are behind bars and you're being watched at the same time, which means you just feel like there's no place to go. There's nowhere to move. I can't express myself. I can't say what I need to say. I'm not allowed to feel my own feelings. I'm not allowed to express my own feelings. I'm not allowed to express that I feel violated or that I feel watched or I'm afraid, so none of those things are acceptable with a narcissistic parent. So you end up learning that you have to keep it all to yourself and you keep it inside of yourself. And so you're pushing that energy down into your body and you're feeling worse and worse. And quite often we get sick from all of this emotional repression and suppression that we're doing as we push those emotions. The emotions that they're using all the time are guilt, shame, fear, anger, jealousy, and envy. And the fear is terror because they're literally terrorizing you. If you think about a parent who's terrorizing you by watching you all the time, literally stalking you to make sure you're doing the right thing, but you can never do the right thing. So you're in that catch-22 or what they call the double bind all the time. So how can you heal all of this stuff? So you can start to heal by, first of all, making a decision that you're going to focus on you, you're going to focus on your healing. And that is not an easy task for somebody who was raised by a narcissistic parent. It's not easy to make that decision. Like, I got to focus on me. I'm supposed to focus on everyone else. Everyone else is more important than me is often the belief that will drive you in a narcissistic family system. But you are going to have to separate yourself out from that family system, whether you're in contact with them or not in contact with them. You're going to have to learn to become your sovereign self. And you're going to have to learn to become that independent self. You're going to build that confidence in yourself. And you're going to build self-trust by learning to connect with your own intuitive abilities and also to grow those and expand those abilities. You're going to find a support system who's going to be loving and caring and compassionate towards you. And you're probably sitting here, you're like, I can't see that happening. I don't trust anybody. You can learn to trust by first building self-trust in you, finding people that can help you move through this experience of being narcissistically abused and the healing process that comes along. You will need to address your entire holistic system because nothing about you will be untouched by the narcissistic parent. Mental, emotional, energetic, physical, spiritual. All of those things are going to be affected by narcissistic parenting and by the extreme fear that comes from being watched all the time, by that extreme hypervigilance that you will develop because you're being watched all the time. And as you go through a therapeutic process that addresses the narcissistic abuse and what it has done to you mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually, you will learn to integrate this sense of I'm a bad person or a good person. I feel like I'm a good person, but I've been told my whole life I'm a bad person, which is the programming, right? You're going to learn to integrate the parts of yourself that and accept the parts of yourself that maybe you don't like so much. There's this inner war that goes on inside of people who are raised by narcissistic parents of good person, bad person, checking everything you say. So you're doing your own surveillance on yourself So you're checking everything that you say, like, and then you'll go back over your conversations and be like, oh my God, I wish I had said this. Why didn't I say that? Or why did I say that? Or I hope they didn't take it the wrong way. I hope they're not mad at me. I hope they're not going to stop talking to me. There's just like all these things that you will do because you're so programmed by that narcissistic parent to believe the worst things about yourself that are simply not true. If you're an ACON, you've been conned into believing so many things about yourself that aren't true. So if you think about the way that you are watching yourself and hard on yourself because of how your parent watched you and was hard on you and was criticizing you, turning that around is going to be one of the most healing things that you will ever do for yourself. And so if this is like all resonating with you and you are understanding, that the spiritual piece is an important, really important piece. And whether you believe in spirituality or energy, it's the energy system is the only thing you cannot live without. It's what animates you. It's what you bring into this life with you and leave in this life with. And so when you work on that part of the self, the healing becomes rapid acting and lasting, and you are evolving that spiritual self, that you're developing that energetic self. It's a really important part of the process of healing from parental narcissistic abuse and the many wounds that occur through being narcissistically abused by your own parent. And you can reverse the programming. It does take time. It's an ongoing process, and you can reverse a lot of it pretty rapidly and come up with all new kinds of ways to perceive reality, perceive yourself in your reality. You can become so much more self-loving and self-caring and self-respecting, giving yourself the respect, the love, the care, the validation that you always wanted. Now, if this stuff is interesting to you, and you like this different approach that I have a technique I use called whole person integration technique that helps you release the emotional energy from the body and from the energy fields. And I watch people really change exponentially when they use it. So if you're interested in learning more about all of that, I do have an amazing group coaching program. It's called Iconic Me Group Coaching, and it's really empowering where you get to become the icon in your own life. Independent, confident, original, and naturally you. It's the you were always meant to be, but you were separated from by your narcissistic parent. And we have holistic solutions. We look at food, environment, energy, spirituality, emotions, thoughts, feelings, beliefs, the inner child, all these different archetypes that are part of the healing process. In this rapid acting therapy that I use, whole person integration technique, and these transpersonal energy therapies that I use. So if this is interesting to you, please like, subscribe, comment. Please just ask me any questions you want. Give me an idea for a video that you would like to see me make in the comment section below. And I get back to almost all of the comments. Because I think it's important, if you're taking the time to tell me what you think or to add something you want to add or ask me to make a video, that means a lot to me. So, and it means so much to me that you're watching this video right now. And I'm Dr. Meg Haworth, and I hope this information has been really helpful for you. And I hope that you're able to break away from that narcissistic parent who's watching you and to stop watching yourself and in the negative way, stop the self-criticism, stop the self-blame, the self-shaming, and all of those ways that you might be working against yourself. Learn to love and embrace yourself and be who you were always meant to be. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this information will help you get well now.